Hello folks, it's the Pace Chaser again. Welcome to another video. In this one I'm going to look at an interesting operator in North Lincolnshire called Barnards. They were based at Kirton Lindsey, also known sometimes as Kirton in Lindsey. And they also had a dealership called Kirton Bus and Coach and a scrapyard facility as well in their premises. I visited them just once in November 1998, and that's what the photographs in this video are going to be from, the 1st of November 1998. So first of all, just show you on the map where Kirton Lindsey is, or Kirton in Lindsey. It's just there. To the north you've got Scunthorpe, across you've got Brigg there. If you go southwestwards you've got Gainsborough. So that's the kind of area that we're looking at. Barnards was set up by Stephen Barnard. The date it started doesn't appear to have been recorded, but it was certainly in business by the late 70s or early 80s. Similar, the date that they started dealing in buses and coaches and doing scrapping doesn't seem to have been recorded either. They were a coach operator, but around the time of deregulation in 1986 they began to run a commuter bus service between Kirton Lindsey and Scunthorpe, and they also got attendant service to Brigg, running on school days and market days, I believe. They lost a tender for the latter service in 1991. However, in the meantime, in 1990 they'd opened a second base in Gainsborough, and they began to run a town service to the Park Springs estate in competition with Roadcar. In 1991 they obtained 4 vehicles worth of tendered work on the Gainsborough to Retford corridor, which expanded their Gainsborough base. However, in 1992 they sold the Gainsborough base and the buses that operated from there to Roadcar, and just went back to running coaches and school contracts from their original premises in Kirton Lindsey. The date that the company ceased doesn't seem to have been recorded either. It was sometime in the 2010s. The last accounts were submitted to the year end in 2015, and the company itself was wound up in 2018, so it's somewhere around there. I believe the scrapyard facility closed in the early 2000s when the regulations around the surfacing of scrapyards changed. They had to have solid hardcore surfaces rather than mud, and I believe they stopped scrapping vehicles around the early 2000s. The dealership, I'm not quite sure when that lasted until either. Again, it doesn't seem to have been recorded. So we start with this general overview, as I said, taken on the 1st of November 1998 on my one and only visit to the premises. It was a Saturday afternoon. We turned up, we just saw it by the side of the road, so we stopped. There were no gates or anything, it was just entirely open. We kind of walked in a little bit to try and find somebody to ask permission to have a look around, but there was nobody there, so we kind of took a few photographs and then left again. So this overview, on the far left, just poking into the shot, is a Scania coach. It's a Scania K113TRB with Irizar Century bodywork, registration number R333SBC, and it was new in October 1997 to Barnards themselves. It later went on to a firm called Henderson of Eachwick near Morpeth in Northumberland, and then it ended up with Barry's in Weymouth, registered OIL 5267 by about 2012. Next to it is a sister vehicle, 33 SBC, a similar Scania with Irizar Century bodywork. That one later went on to work for Basildon Travel. In the main lineup, at the back there, the vehicle on the left is a Bristol VR registered RAU 810R. We'll come back to that in a little bit because I've got a closer photo of it. Next to that is a DAF SB 2300 with Plaxton Paramount body. That was new in April 1986 to Barnards themselves, and its registration was C470 OFW. Next to that is a duple bodied Bedford carrying the Irish registration JIL 7638. Unfortunately, I've not been able to establish the original identity of that vehicle. And then just across towards the right hand side is another Bristol VR WKH 524X. Again, I'll come back to that shortly. And on the far right hand side is a Mercedes 307 with Reeve Burgess bodywork, 12-seater. That was registered A394 TTL, and it was new to Barnards in November of 1983. So next up we've got a similar overview, just move around slightly so you can't see the two Scania Irizar Centuries. Just about make out some coach roofs at the back there. parked up. You can see the surface of the yard was quite poor. It was quite potholed, and they were full of water at the time that I visited. So next we've got a closer view of our 333 SBC and our 33 SBC. SBC obviously S Barnard coaches. It shows them standing outside the workshop building, but to the left of that there's the bus wash, as you can see, and then behind is the scrapyard facility. You can just about make out a Bristol LH and delivery of TMS, TSAD motor services. Unfortunately, because there was nobody to ask permission, we didn't dare go down there, so I didn't actually go down and take any closer photographs, because, as I say, we couldn't find anyone to ask permission. There's what appears to be a recovery truck there that presumably they towed vehicles in with, and there were other vehicles obviously behind that you can't make out in the photograph. Across on the right hand side again, you can just see the roofs of some of the coaches in the Barnards fleet, just parked up there. So next we've got a closer shot of Bristol VR WKH 524X, that was ex-East Yorkshire. It was delivered to them in May of 1981 with a registration TRH 524W, but didn't enter service till November 1981, by which time it was re-registered with the mark you can see there, WKH 524X. East Yorkshire sold it in August 1998 to Barnards, and it worked for them till 2003. And after that it became a dining bus, a non-PSV, one of the ones that kind of goes around TV film sets to act as a canteen, I think, that kind of thing. Not quite sure if it's still in existence or not. And you can see a closer view of the front of A394 TTL just next to it as well. As you can see on the Bristol, Barnards had kept the East Yorkshire maroon livery, but they'd overpainted the cream in a white colour, both around the windows and on the skirt, and added a red band as well up there. So they kind of modified the East Yorkshire livery, but it was basically still in East Yorkshire colours. Next up, a closer view of the other Bristol VR, RAU 810R. Again, ex-East Yorkshire, but this one was new to Trent in January of 1977. East Yorkshire acquired it in 1991 and again sold it in August 1998 to Barnards. Barnards ran that one until 2004 and then sold it to the dealer Carl Island in Hull. And it was exported to Germany at Griefswald in Germany to somebody called Conrad Sass. Again, as you can see, it's got a modified East Yorkshire maroon and cream livery with the cream overpainted in white and a red band added. And you can see that a bit more clearly in the lighting of this shot. And you can see part of the side of C470 OFW standing next to it as well. So that was as many photos as I took of the actual Barnards fleet. As I say, we couldn't find anybody to ask permission. There was nobody there. It was at the Marie Celeste, to be fair. But we didn't want to go any further into the yard without having asked. However, next to the road was the dealership premises, Kirton Bus and Coach. And some of the vehicles that were for sale were clearly visible from the road there. So I took some photos of those. And we start with a Leyland National registered PTT 80R. That was new in November 1976 to Western National. It then passed in the late 80s to Overland and County of Malmesbury in Wiltshire. And then by the 1990s, it had gone to Ludlows of Hills Owen in the West Midlands, whose livery it's in here, as you can see. I don't think it was ever sold to anybody, although it was up for sale at the time. I've looked on Flickr and sources like that, and I can't find any reference to it working for anybody else. So it looks like it might have been scrapped after a period of time on the sales list. Just standing next to it is the back of a Dodge, which we'll see a bit later on, D510 CLN, so we'll talk about that a bit later. Another ex-Ludlows Leyland National. This one was new to Red and White in March 1977. Red and White were overseen by National Welsh, and it became part of the actual National Welsh fleet a bit later on. When National Welsh imploded in the early 90s, it became part of the Ronda fleet by 1992. And then it passed a couple of years after that to Ludlows, again of Hills Owen in the West Midlands. As you can see by the badge on the front, they fitted it with a Volvo engine in place of its original Leyland unit. Registered NWO 460R. And again, it was up for sale at the time we visited. You can see my uncle's Ford Fiesta car that we'd arrived in, just parked next to it. My dad looking over to the near side there. Again, there seems to be no record of that bus ever being sold to anybody else, so it looks like it was its last resting place. But they were trying to sell it when I took a picture of it. And the other ex-Ludlow's Leyland National that was there, VPT 596R. That was new to Northern General in January of 1977, and it had been sold directly to Ludlow's in 1991. Again, there seems to be no record of it ever working for anybody else after it went to Kirton Bus and Coach, so it looks like in all three cases they weren't successful in selling them on. Next up, we've got a closer look at D510 CLN. It's a Dodge G10 with Wadham stringer bodywork. Now, if you'd asked me, I'd have been sure that was new to the Ministry of Defence because they had many similar vehicles, but it wasn't. It was new in April 1987 to British Airways at Heathrow Airport. And at some point between then and when I photographed it in 1998, it had passed to Humberside Airport, who'd sold it on to Kirton Bus and Coach. As you can see, it was up for sale. Again, I don't think there's any record of it ever going anywhere else after Kirton Bus and Coach. You can see just about it's got perimeter seating as well as a lot of airport buses did have. You can see the seat backs through the windows. Another Leyland National now posing alongside VPT 596R. This one is JWG 194P. Had a very interesting history. It was new to South Yorkshire PTE in August 1975. In 1985 it went to Isle of Man Transport. It spent about 7 years on the Isle of Man. And then in 1992 it passed to Orion in Kirkcaldy in Scotland, and then almost immediately to White Rose of Castleford in West Yorkshire. At various points after that it worked for AJC Coaches, also known as Anglo Blue in Leeds, and for Glen Stewart Travel in the West Midlands. However, it had come to Kirton Bus and Coach, according to my notes, from a firm called Transpower of Heanor in Nottinghamshire. And presumably it was in their livery, this rather sort of plain looking grey colour. And there it is again, a shot of the other side showing it still had its second door. It was new with two doors back in 1975, as we said. There's a 40-seat dual door vehicle and it had retained the second door as well. Again, I'm not sure it ever went anywhere else after Kirton Bus and Coach. They don't seem to have much success in selling the vehicles that they put up for sale. But that's it for this video anyway. I thought I'd just show you those few photographs. It was an interesting little operation. It's very unusual to find a coach operator, a bus and coach dealer and a scrapyard in the same premises. And we were certainly quite happy to have seen it. So as always, thank you for joining me. Take care and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.